Welcome to the Cabin Culture Podcast, where we spend a little more time diving deeper into all the fun parts of cabin culture. I like to think of this as both the material and imagined expressions of how cabin lovers, dwellers, builders, and designers wish to live a more simple and authentic life. Today we're welcoming Spencer Wood, the Real Estate Cowboy, calling in from inside his geodesic dome in Kingfield, Maine. Spencer has been living in a camper on his 10-acre property for nearly 4 years while building the structure, and he's still mid-build. While most guests share polished success stories, Spencer offers the raw reality of being in the thick of it, wrestling with wanting to launch versus honoring a decade-long vision. Spencer's path challenges conventional wisdom. After playing football at the University of Maine, he built an unconventional real estate career with 80,000 YouTube subscribers, selling 90% of his listings through video alone. He didn't research rental markets or create business plans. He simply wanted to build something different in a place he loves. We explore why alternative builds aren't always cheaper, the basics of land buying nobody teaches you, and his side business, Acres of Maine, where he buys land directly from owners to keep property accessible for Mainers. Whether you're mid-build and need perspective from the trenches, considering alternative housing, or dreaming about finding land in Maine, this conversation offers honest insights on choosing passion over perfection and building something truly unique. Let's do it. Thanks for joining me on the podcast, Spencer. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thanks for having me.
Can you start by telling people where you're located right now? Both like slightly bigger picture, city, town, state, but then also really specifically for anyone watching on YouTube, they can see this, but like tell folks where you're talking to us from.
Yeah, so I'm coming from Kingfield, Maine, up in Franklin County on the western side of the state, up near Sugarloaf Mountain. I'm on the Carabasset River, cool property. It's about 10 acres or so. Most of it is all right on the Carabasset River. And I'm building a geodesic dome right off of Route 27. And I think quite a few skiers and people that come this way probably know what I'm talking about, because every time somebody that knows the area up here and I describe where I live and what I'm doing, they're like, oh my God, that's your spot down there. So
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna have to tell my family because I come from a family of sugarloafers.
yep.
My uncle has been on ski patrol most of his life, and one of my cousins is now too, and they have a place right up near Sugarloaf.
Nice. Yeah, just I'm sure the big igloo looking thing on the side of the road and the Black Lab mailbox was a pretty good dead giveaway too.
Yeah. Well, I'm pumped to have you for two reasons. And one of them, obviously, is you're working on this project. I always think it's really interesting. You're not finished with it yet. And a lot of
No.
folks who we've reached out to for the podcast who aren't finished don't want to come on until they're done and have like a full, complete story. And I
Mhm.
actually feel like there's so much value in the middle of the story that we often forget about by the time we get to the end, and we just kind of gloss over in favor of like, now we're up and running. So I
Yeah.
actually feel like it's really valuable to talk to someone mid-story. But also
Yeah.
you work in real estate and you do it in a very non-traditional way, which I find is kind of fascinating. So I would love to kind of start with like what brought you to your own build. Like what is your background that made you want to do this and do something as unique as a geodesic dome?
Yeah. Well, the dome and kind of the, I guess, inspiration or motivation to do or build like an alternative house, as I'd kind of call it, like happened well before getting into real estate and all that, probably back in college. But I just always attracted to kind of something that looks different but still functions like traditional stuff. And I always like to kind of have something to talk about rather than, just kind of the same old cool spot that everybody else has.
Yeah.
So, it kind of stemmed from that. And then I started doing a bunch of research and, looking at tiny homes on wheels, getting, prices for container homes and like
Mhm.
crazy wall tents and, modulars and stuff. And, ended up just going with the geodesic dome because of kind of its durability with high wind, high snow, its insulation, and it's like, one of the more durable structures is, triangles in the whole dome setup itself. And it financially, was really kind of one of the cheaper options because building tiny or doing something alternative, contrary to belief, typically isn't that cheap. So it's been a a balancing act to be financially within my bounds, but also kind of produce something that I've been envisioning for a long time.
Yeah. When you said you've been thinking about this since college, when you envisioned this property, and you didn't necessarily know it was going to be a geodesic dome, was the vision a place for you to live in full time, a vacation place, a place to rent? What was the full vision that you saw?
I think kind of both. I mean, so I've kind of decided I'm going to probably more live in it this winter than I was thinking. I was kind of in a rush to try to, make the money that everybody talks about and stuff of that nature. So I really wanted to get it done, but then I was like, you only get like kind of one,
Yeah.
first appearance, if you will. So I
Yeah.
didn't want to rush anything because I've taken kind of so long at this stage that I didn't want to like get to almost the finish line and just like blooper my way to the end.
Yeah. Can we
So
talk a bit about that for 1 second? What you
yeah,
just said, you articulated so well what I've been feeling and thinking. You only get one chance. How did you say it? Was it at a first impression or at
yeah, I mean, yeah, something like that, something like that. But yeah, it's kind of you want to call it like a life's work, but I mean for me it's been like since thinking about this sort of stuff. I mean it's 10 years of
Yeah.
thinking about it, dreaming about it, buying the dome, finding the land, doing all that. It's like,
Yeah.
man, you spend so much time, but we get to the end or close to the end, and you just want to like make money and be done, But
Well, and from a practical standpoint, I think about this all the time because we just started a new project, but that I don't want to rush. It's like once you launch, if you launch it at a not fully realized vision, that's what your first reviews are going to be. That's what
yeah,
people's first impressions are going to be
yeah,
versus wait a couple more months and do it complete. And then those first ones are like everyone's talking about it. They're sharing it with other people. Those first reviews are excellent. Like I do think it matters from a strategic standpoint.
yeah. Well, and this is my first one, so I'm like, ultra cautious, I guess, with how I'm kind of putting this project out to the world and
Yeah.
like inviting people in and stuff because it is, they are really it's personal. It's like a
Yeah.
very personal project, and I've done all of it. Like from putting in the driveway to having a second date with my girlfriend on having her on a roller going up and down the driveway, like just stuff of that nature. So it's really been hands on
Yeah.
every step of the way. And it's like, I really want people to come here and experience and see something that they hopefully never have,
Yeah.
and provide
Yeah.
that opportunity.
I want to ask a couple follow-up questions about things that you said. First of all, just for folks, because I think some of our listeners have places, some of our listeners are in the middle of a project, and some of our listeners are just dreaming and learning and planning. I think this
Mm.
question is more for them. But you said, I learned along the way that tiny isn't always cheaper. And I think there might be some people listening who hear that and they're like, why not? Can you just dig into that from your own experiences and what you learned, why that's not the case?
Yeah, you watch some shows like building off grid or something, something on TV, and like you hear some of these people talk about like building a container home, that looks absolutely gorgeous for $50,000, and it's like you can barely get utilities if you're going to be on grid, for $50,000. Never mind your driveway, your earthwork, like all that sort of stuff. So for me, it was looking at things that were going to fit. I mean, I got prices from container homes and stuff like that, and it was pretty easy that you were at $120,000 pretty much,
Right
no
off
matter
the bat.
what, right off the bat.
Mhm.
So it's not there's not a huge gap in traditional stick frame stuff and some of these alternative smaller tiny home projects. But it really it's more about the experience that you're building than the place that you're sleeping, sort of thing.
Yeah. Someone described it to me once as like, you think that, if a tiny home is one fourth the size of a normal home, you can just divide the cost of a normal home by four, and that's what you
Yeah,
have. And my cousin who built Cozy Rock was like, no, Janice, because I had those misconceptions. He was like, you still need like a heating system. You still need a plumbing system. You still need a septic, whether it's serving one bedroom or four, like those costs remain pretty similar. And if less, not enough less for it to be a quarter. So you're still paying all those big costs. It's really
yeah,
lumber and labor that you're saving on. But even then, sometimes it can not be as cheap as you think.
yeah. I mean, because this, I mean, typically you build on squares and flat walls and stuff like that. And this is a big circle, dome sort of
Yeah.
thing. So even just like getting creative with the space and like what we're doing and all that has been, I had an architect and engineer because the deck that the dome sits on is about 12 feet off the ground. It's 38 by 38. So it's a really big deck. You can drive vehicles underneath it and stuff like that. But, on the inside, it's not like a traditional project for somebody. You can't just
Yeah.
have like an architect be like, yeah, this will work. And,
Yeah.
so it's been a lot of figuring things out and changing things on the go and having to spend extra week or two thinking through a concept and making sure that it's actually gonna, work the way that you need it to.
Right.
So,
What is your background that made you feel confident? Like, you know what? I can do this very non-traditional build and I can do it by myself.
good friends.
Yeah.
So, but I've always been kind of hands on in that sense. I'm not gonna say that I'm like a carpenter or anything crazy, but I know enough people in the world that I call and ask a lot of questions, watch YouTube videos. I mean, there's one of the older guy in town really drove by and saw the project going on and stopped in one day, and he's like 73 and he'll show up here randomly for a couple hours a day and work and do stuff like that. So just kind of having the family, the friends, and really just the, I guess, determination to make her happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you from Kingfield originally? Where did you grow
I'm
up?
originally from Salisbury, New Hampshire.
I
Came
saw
up
the
from
603 number and I was like,
Yeah,
that's a New Hampshire area code.
yeah. I've had that one as long as I've had a Social Security, I think. So, but I came up to Maine back in like 2009, full time officially. I played football for the University of Maine, and that
Okay.
was 9 to 13, and I stayed and got a master's and did all that stuff, and more or less never left.
You were at the University of Maine the same time that my cousins were there. How big is the school? That's probably not a game we can play, is it?
I mean, it's possible. I started a pretty cool taxi program when I was in college. It was called Tip Whip. It was like Uber, but there was no fees or charge. It was your ride at your price, and I'd get
Yeah.
like a lot of the businesses would pay for everybody's ride
Wow.
or their tips. So I knew a lot of people through driving a lot up there. But
Do you know Corey or Kyle Warren? They
took a
stayed
while.
engineering. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes a
Oh,
difference.
that's way more advanced than I was. I was football and communications and that stuff. So
Love that. Okay. Okay. Can you share a little bit like when you were going through the decision process of tiny home versus cabin versus container home, you went with geodesic dome. We haven't had many folks on this podcast who have made that choice. And so I don't know. I personally don't know a ton about it. I can see in the background of this video
yeah.
enough to give me some information. It looks almost like a fabric material. Can you give an
Yep.
overview to folks who don't know, like if they can't even, let's say they're listening in their car and they can't even picture what this looks like? What are the materials? Okay, so it's 12 feet off the ground. That's a starting point. It
Yep.
looks like it's fabric exterior. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like a marine vinyl essentially. So the outside is like I like to tell people that don't really know what they are because everybody calls it a yurt, which is fine. It's totally cool, but there is quite
It's not a
a little
yurt.
bit of a difference. It's not a yurt, but I like to tell people like if you think about like the old school igloos, the white igloo that you see, that's pretty much what it looks like. It's a 24-foot circle, so it's got about 430 square feet of floor space, but the ceilings are almost 15 feet tall.
Okay.
So, like it has a loft that I've been building upstairs and stuff
Okay.
like that, and it's going to have a full bathroom and a dishwasher because I've never had one of those. So it'll be pretty much just like a really nice apartment, but they're built right here, or the kits, I should say. It's called Pacific Domes is the company, and it's a woman-owned company out of Oregon,
Hell
and
yeah.
they do a really great job with honestly all their YouTube stuff. I mean, that was kind of big for me. Was like, you see all these crazy reflective mirrored, modulars that come from overseas in like a container and stuff like that. And for some reason, I was just like, my luck, I'm going to get shafted on it. Something crazy is going to happen or like whatever. And But these people, I mean, the Pacific Domes Company has like videos on every step of it, you know. So my dad and I put this together over like a long weekend, pretty much the two of us put the
Wow.
whole framing together and all that. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we should have had like four people and some other stuff, but you can make it happen, you know, relatively quickly once you get the hang of it. And I honestly just liked out the information that they had. It was just to watch the videos and follow along. You know that it was like a real company. When I called, I pretty much talked to the same kid every time. Like it was just a good experience compared to, you know, just like more or less purchasing a container and doing a bunch of, you know, fabricating and stuff like that. So it was, you know, just and because I'm on the river, you know, it's a huge big window. It's like a 14-foot window.
Oh, shit. Okay,
Yeah.
if you're not watching on YouTube, you can't see that, but I did not see that part coming. That's beautiful. Look at the leaves, Spencer.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome.
That's so good. Okay, so that's part of the deck is part of the platform.
Oh yeah, yeah. So where everything you can see the truck down below, and that's the
Yeah.
river right in front of it. So it's the deck is 38 feet by 38. So it goes all the way around the dome, and it'll eventually you know, have a hot tub on top of it and that sort of stuff, and make it like, you know, a cool little bird's nest feeling almost.
Yeah. Yeah. What I kind of love about this, correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't feel like so a lot of folks, myself included, will like research an area and like see what the rental market's like and like plan a vision for the business they're going to create. And this just feels like a total passion project of I just love this area. I want to try to build this on my own. I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah, no, I mean it really was. You know, for me, especially, like I love to ski. My friends up here, like we mountain bike together. We're always outside. My dogs can just literally be outside all day long. And
Yeah.
it's just, you know, I'm living in the place that people come to have fun and like take the weight off the shoulders and enjoy the outdoors. So when you're in it 24/7, you know, you want it to kind of match that special place. You know, I want people to come here and you know, have that experience with this spot, but also kind of have something to talk about and like recognize in the area that, you know, this is, you know, kind of a landmark almost of the
Right.
area. And I think that's really cool. And I want to be able to like have parties here and host people and all that sort of stuff.
Where will you live once you start renting it?
Well, I've been in the campers for so long that we'll figure it out. I'm really comfortable already living in um, a fifth wheel camper that I've had. I've lived in this like since I bought the property. The first time I bought this property, I put a road like as far in as I could before winter hit, and I've been pretty much living in this camper full time for like almost 4 years.
Okay.
So it's been a thing. So I can pretty much go anywhere, but the goal will be if it goes really well. I have some other, I guess, kind of dreams. Like I really want to build an earth ship, and I think a earth ship would be something on this property that I could do. I mean, the ultimate goal would be if things work well, then I could have 3 or 4 alternative or different styles of
Yeah.
housing that people could come and enjoy and possibly, you know, do on their own or kind of expand what we're doing up here.
How big is the piece of land that you own?
It's about 10 acres now. I
Okay.
sold 2 acres to a friend who built a beautiful place and all that, but still
So
plenty
now
of
you have a
space.
friend right next door.
All the way down on the other side, can't see him.
But that's so nice when you buy a piece of land and then you can sell off a piece to a buddy. It's like you can literally build your own neighborhood. Who do I want to live around and with?
Yeah, that was, well, it started that way, and then he met a great girl, and they got engaged, and he needed to sell the land, so I ended up having to resell it
Oh,
for him. But luckily, the people that bought it are really awesome, and we have a fun time together, and
okay, that's good.
so it's good.
Well, this takes me to the other reason I wanted to talk to you, which is you work in real estate. And I think this is interesting for folks. I just feel like you have a perspective on one big part of the cabin dream, which is finding land or a place and figuring out how to make it happen. Can you tell me a little bit about your real estate business? Because it's not it's this shouldn't surprise anyone after hearing the first part of this podcast, but it's not your typical real estate business. You are known as the Real Estate Cowboy. Can you tell folks a little more about your real estate business and what makes it different?
Well, my two dogs, Chili and Stump, are really what set it all apart before I get into it. But yeah, I work for a company here in Maine. I'm licensed in Maine and New Hampshire. But in Maine, I work for a company called United Country Lifestyle Properties of Maine, and it's pretty much exactly what it says. We sell like the Maine lifestyle, whether that be timberland or oceanfront or whatever somebody's looking to get into. But we really promote things big on YouTube. That's why I joined the company. Like back in the day, I was like, video is really how things happen, especially rural Maine. It's like you don't want to drive 3 hours for a 15-minute showing of a lake place up north, So I typed in Maine real estate into YouTube at the time to see like who's doing video, and it was this company, United Country, and there was pretty much one other guy that was up in Aroostook County, and I was like, well, I'm not going up there, so I got to talk to this company. And I think at the time they had like maybe 500 to 700 subscribers. And over the last 5 years, I developed, kind of the brand of the Real Estate Cowboy. I wear my cowboy hat. I have the dogs with me. I mean, we honestly are just living our lifestyle. Like we're out there like running around in the woods, tromping around, having fun, and selling the stuff here in Maine that I enjoy every day. And I think that's why it resonates with people. And today's current world, we have 80,000 subscribers on YouTube. We have the #1 real estate channel in Maine for getting things sold here in the state.
Yeah.
And it's honestly, it's quite funny. I mean, I've had people in the middle of Portland coming out of a place for dinner and, hey, are you the Real Estate Cowboy? We watch all your videos. Where are your dogs at? Or like people will call and, oh man, it is you. Like I can tell by your voice and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's been fun to have this little, I'd call it, Class C fame of people that are watching and looking for Maine real estate. But it's been a really awesome tool for us as well. I mean, I probably sell upwards of 90% of the properties I list right off of YouTube.
Without anyone ever coming to see them in person?
A lot of the times people are from out of state are buying stuff up here. Some of them will buy without seeing, but typically they watch the video 300 times. They get their stuff in line. They come up and they pretty much have a check in hand because they're just wanted to make sure it was real.
Yeah. If you're dreaming about a cabin build or are in the midst of a build, or you just bought a place and are getting ready to host for the very first time, regardless of where you are, sometimes you just need a little help along the way. Shared experiences from someone who's been there, advice from someone who's learned a lot of lessons the hard way. That's me. Or a cheerleader as you finish up. All of these reasons are exactly why I started offering cabin consultations to our Instagram followers and friends who could use some specific one-on-one help. I can't promise to solve all your problems, but I can promise to be transparent about our build costs and process, our organization and project management systems, our favorite and least favorite tools for renting, how we market, and how we found ourselves with almost 80,000 Instagram followers and 100% occupancy in our first year of hosting at Cozy Rock. So if that sounds like it might help you, feel free to visit us at staycozycabin.com or on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin and sign up for a time to chat there. What are you noticing in terms of, this is a Maine specific question, then I want to get back into real estate, but what are you noticing? It feels to me like Maine is becoming really hot right now, but I don't know if that's just because I spend so much time there and spend so much time thinking about it and follow so many people on Instagram who are in Maine. Is that true? Are we coming into a period of time where people in this country are starting to discover Maine in a way that they haven't before?
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID probably set it off, more than ever. But I like to tell people, I mean, Maine is like the Alaska of the East Coast. It's like still kind of like uncharted, and like there's a lot of ways to climb the ladder, quickly up here than a lot of other spots. I mean, I'm from New Hampshire, and there's a big switch even from New Hampshire to Maine in terms of its like availability and its vastness and like all the private lands and things like that. So it really does kind of mimic almost like that, big sky, Alaska, like vibe out here. And I think people, are noticing that you can still kind of find your little American dream or slice of heaven or something like that without having to have, $2.8 million to get on a piece of water somewhere and shoot a gun and have some fireworks and not pay HOA fees and stuff like that. So, it's definitely picking up. And I mean, understandably, right? I mean, it's a pretty awesome spot.
It's the way life should be.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you say? I remember when I was buying land for Cozy Rock, I had never bought land before. I'd only bought property, like already built structures. And I remember feeling very overwhelmed by the land purchase process. And there was no resources out there that were like, are you a newbie land buyer? Here are the things you need to check on your land to know if you can build there. Like, what would you say to someone? I'm just wondering, I don't know, people listening might be like, we already know this, but I'm curious for someone like me, like, what are some of those basics you would tell them? If you're just looking at land, it's so much harder than when you're looking at a structure. What are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I mean, land is personal, so you obviously want it. You want the feeling of, you're where you want to be, whether that means that you have year-round access on a paved road or you don't mind being seasonal and, I really want a water feature, but it, I wanted to be on the lake, but this, the creek is really cool and has like a little feature to it that I like. So, you want to kind of align reality with like your happiness, I guess, and like make sure
that. Can we pause there
when,
for 1 second? The roads, even what you just said is like, are you on a public road or will you only have part of the year access? That's a good one. Like, will someone plow this road or do I need to plow that road? Who's in charge of maintaining the road? That was like a question I didn't think to ask.
Yep. And, and then a lot of it, especially with Maine, we have a lot of unorganized territory, which, typically is a lot cheaper in taxes and things of that nature because there's no municipalities. So, if you want to be kind of an outlaw in that sense where you just want to shoot guns and hunt and have a shooting range, that sort of stuff, then maybe you're looking at areas like that have a lot less restrictions that towns will have, ordinances and things like that nature. And if you're going to build stuff, then, you spend the $350 or $400 to do soil tests and make sure that it can take a septic system if you're going to, have a septic system. But
that was the thing I didn't know about. Like, I didn't know what a perc test was or like, why do I need to do this thing? But that's so important because you're often not on city sewer.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, you want to make sure that you can put in a septic system. And a lot of the unorganized territories, more or less like your building permit is a approved septic, soil test. So, when you're going with the state and stuff like that, it's, they don't have, you need this permit for this, you need to do this, this, and this, like a lot of towns will. So it's really kind of figuring out what people are moving to Maine for, or why they're moving within our state. Like, what are they getting away from Southern Maine because it's gotten too restricted for them, or are they coming here from New York and have watched the movies and, want to try homesteading and doing all that,
Yeah. Okay. So another piece of your real estate experience is Acres of Maine. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So, that's kind of like a little personal, side ordeal. So instead of people selling their vacant land to, I guess out of staters in that sense, but, I more or less am trying to buy land from landowners, and do these sort of projects on them. I try to keep the land within the state, find other people that, may be interested in trying to find something. Like I work with a lot of people within Maine, for them to have opportunities to buy their own piece of land in Maine, because if by the time it gets to like a retail market, it's already probably out of a lot of people's reach. So a lot of these will owner finance and kind of offer some different options for folks to get into Maine land that, don't have $1 million to do so.
Right. Because it says on the website, it says, I founded this with one mission to make selling property in Maine as straightforward as it gets. No realtor fees, no banks. And I kind of read that and was like, wait a minute, I've never seen something like this. No realtor fees? How do you do it? What's in it for you? If you don't make any money off of doing it.
Yeah, I'm also, well, typically I'm trying at that point, we're buying property from people. I mean, when I say we, I guess it's me and the dogs, but
I love that.
Yeah, there's no fees. I don't work with like within the agency or anything like that. It's just like a straightforward, somebody calls, I send a postcard, say, hey, I'm interested in your land. A lot of the stuff I have kind of hand selected at that point, and I see the areas and the stuff that I like, because I travel, 40, 50,000 miles a year. Like I'm pretty familiar with all the areas of the state at this point. So yeah, I mean, I'll just send people direct mail and talk to them about it. Like I don't put a price on, I don't lowball anybody. I don't, do the stuff that, hey, it's a company from, Hawaii that's sending you an offer and they want you to sign a purchase and sale and your deed, and do all this. Instead, I show up in person with the dogs and, say hello, shake your hand, walk around. And if you give me a price and it seems like it's something that, I can work with and can see a future with, then we make a deal and do it from there. And like I said, a lot of them are, folks that may have not even been to the land ever before, that sort of stuff. So from them, it's, somebody going to their land possibly for the first time, for them, and given the idea of like what they could do with it. But so far, I do probably, 5 or 6 projects like that a year and end up like owner financing them and stuff like that.
Yeah. I guess I'm curious, like big picture, Spencer, because your life is so interesting. I feel like it's very different from a lot of folks that we've talked to. You split your time between where you are now and a boat in Portland. And
I did I sold the boat this year, but
you did?
I did. Yeah. I bought a boat off Facebook Marketplace for $3,500, and I lived on it more or less for about 2 years in the wintertime and everything. I redid it, put new floors and made it actually like comfortable and all that. But when with real estate wise, I'm always driving like 3 hours one way, and it's so to be able to get down there, I'd want to like stay and see friends or hang out, whatever. Right. And I was like, well, I got 2 dogs. Like I'm not paying $2,500 a month plus utilities for something I'm not going to be at. I'll just live for more or less free in the camper. So I was like, well, I'm going to get a boat. And I was living in downtown Portland year round with my dogs and parking and power and water for less than $10,000 a year.
I mean, incredible.
That's pretty awesome when you consider it. It was, walk off of the dock and into downtown Portland, and it was awesome. So I hope to buy at some point another boat and be having my little floating apartment house thing down there again at some point. So
I love that. But I guess my question is, so you majored in communications and you played football in college, and now you're building a geodesic dome that you are going to rent, and you have 10 acres of land that you have creative ideas for. Like, what drives you? Like, what is your motivation behind what you're doing now?
I guess I just kind of like, doing funky things. It's hard to, I don't think I have like a great motivation for why I see things or want to do things the way that I do. But, I guess, I like unique. I like different. I like, kind of building something that people can come and enjoy that they've never been to or seen before. And so, I guess at the end of the day, I like building, taking my visions that I think other people will, really enjoy, and ideally one day I can profit from, but also giving people, an experience that they won't really forget. And I also I like the alternative, I mean, everybody is used to you got to buy the 3,000 square foot house with the attached 2-car garage and do this and that. And that is kind of what you do. But, there's these really cool options for people not married, don't have kids. So this wouldn't be great for a family of 5, but for, a guy and a girl or a couple or whoever. You can live in something like this and also, make some money off of it by renting and all that. And I think as the world's gotten more expensive, where people are actually looking at living smaller and buying smaller and using a smaller footprint to be financially, easier on themselves. And like these sort of projects can do that. And you can leave for a little bit and, ideally make some money off it if you want to, go travel for a month like we all talk about. So
it allows us to kind of reimagine what the perfect life could look like. It feel like it, at least for me, it feels like growing up, there was like, this is what it will look like when you make it. And it doesn't really, like, we can kind of create it ourselves now. And short-term rentals in some way have allowed us to do that, because you can play with something that in the past might have felt risky. Like, oh, a geodesic dome that you're going to live in. Well, what's the resale value of that? What if you can't sell it to someone else? Is that a bad investment? In the world of short-term rentals has opened that up. So not only will someone else potentially want to buy it because they can see the value in it, but you can also rent it and make money that way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always, I talk to a billion people a day, it seems like. And, it was for a little while telling people you're living in a camper down by the river. You were like, ooh, this could, they could think a little differently of me. But, it's honestly, it's quite funny when you tell people, like, oh, I'm living in a camper, like building this geodesic dome, or I'm, living in this boat down here. It's, kind of a piece of crap, but it floats and it heats. And everybody's response is always like, man, you're just living the dream, huh? You're like, you're just, that is just awesome. And you kind of, when you're doing it, you start to realize, like, no matter what people's age, like a lot of people kind of dream of this simple lifestyle of, not having 3,000 square feet to clean and take care of, but like having something cool and unique, but also comfortable and fun to enjoy. And, not enough people do it. So I'm just hoping that this project will open the minds and the doors for a lot of people to maybe, especially for a secondary home market. Like, you don't need to have a 5,000 square foot house up here to, like, come enjoy the weekends and whatever. You just need something like this where you can sleep 6 people in it, but it doesn't take up the, $1 billion and half your property.
Right. Well, and there's value, I think, to that connectedness that comes when you are sharing space with 1 to 5 other people in small space, and not $5,000 beautiful log cabin or whatever it might be, which I also love.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think sometimes you miss that, like, I don't know, the connections that are formed when you're all squeezed into a living room and a kitchen when meals are being made,
Yep, absolutely. That's about as true as it gets.
What won you over about Maine culture when you came up from New Hampshire and then you ended up staying? Like, I try and explain it to other people, and I don't know that I always do the best job. So I like asking other Mainers kind of what is it about the culture here that won you over?
Yeah, I think well, I grew up in like rural New Hampshire, so it was a good feeling for me, just feeling comfortable, like in the woods or being, out there, as they say. But, just there's just so much opportunity. I just kind of say again and again, it's like the Alaska of the East Coast, where like you really are like kind of pioneering a lot of stuff and like within the state. Like you're not pretty much everywhere else. You're fighting, 13 million people doing the same exact thing and trying to, buy the same piece of land and get, this area. And here it's like, man, like you can really find anything that you want. I mean, you can still find a oceanfront spot for an affordable price as like regular people, and stuff like that, where you can climb the ladder, I think, just a lot faster and like really explore what you want to do and what interests you and all that. So it's just it's fun to be out there and just kind of be able to do it on your own, and you don't have to have all the restrictions and somebody over your shoulder and the prices and all this and that.
Yeah. What about the people?
Yeah, the people are biggest part of it. I mean, everybody is, like I said, I mean, there's people every day. I get somebody in the community that, stops in and checks on, me and checks on the dome, and everybody's always friendly. And, it's people helping each other out and looking after your neighbor. And, that's that's special. You don't get that everywhere where you like people randomly stop in or kind of keep an eye on your stuff or, all that. So it's just, everybody wants to kind of have a good time and take care of each other and, have fun while we're out here doing it.
Yeah. Spencer, this has been great. Can you tell people like what to expect next? Because you're mid-build, like I know you don't know exactly when it's going to finish, but what can they keep an eye out for from you coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping by the end of the year. So I expect to be done before that. I mean, I got the electrician is coming today, actually, like here pretty soon. So, things are moving along, and it's at the process. Hopefully, here by the end of the year, like there's going to be the wood stove cranking and meals cooking and showers taken, and if I'm lucky, maybe there's a hot tub. So,
There you go.
yeah, I'm hoping to take a step back, like I said, from trying to push it onto the rental market like sooner than later. I'm going to try to, my mom has said too that I should try to enjoy it because I've put so much time and energy and effort and money into it at this point that I am going to, live in it this winter and like enjoy it and make sure the tweaks are worked out and everything is good because like I said, I want this to be a really special experience for everybody that comes and stays here. So I want to be as close to, I don't want to say perfect, but I want my vision to be as close to reality as I can do. So hopefully here maybe by midwinter, I'll open the doors for somebody else to come check it out.
I love it. You sound so laid back for someone mid-build. I just feel like if you had talked to me mid-build, I would have been like high anxiety and stress, and you just sound so relaxed about it.
Well, wait, call me at 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon, and it could be a totally different conversation. But no,
that is the reality of a build for sure.
Yeah, it's well, and speaking of the old timer in town here, he showed up checking things out. So
that is such a main thing.
It'll be there. I just keep remembering that like how far it's come from even a couple months ago, never mind last year. And like, you just got to take the little victories and the beautiful days and, take it slow because it is really easy, especially when, you're starting to write checks and stuff like that for things where it's like, oh man, like I need to finish this right now and start getting $1 a day to start getting money back. But
I know.
It's good. And
that is the reality at that stage. You've sunk so much money into it and you're not done and nothing's coming in. But Spencer, the light at the end of the tunnel is that then you launch it and things change. It starts going direction.
I'm excited for the things changing part. So it'll be good the next couple months and, it'll be the way that I want and that'll be special for me. And like I said, I want this vision that I've kind of had and the experience that I want to develop like 100% done in my mind so that when people come here, there's, it's really something special. So
yeah. Thank you for joining me, Spencer. I really appreciate it. I know you have a lot going on. And the best of luck with the electrician today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And thanks again for having me. And hopefully I'll give you some updates in a couple months.
That sounds good. Thanks so much for joining us. And if you liked what you heard, feel free to leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or share some of your favorite parts over on Apple Podcast. If you have feedback or suggestions for the future, you can also find me on Instagram at Cozy Rock Cabin. Looking forward to next week.